Hey dolls, welcome back to your royal BFF, the People's Duchess. Happy Sunday. Hope y'all are well. It's about 12 degrees Celsius here, which is about 52 degrees Fahrenheit. So I've gotten used to considering this warm, which is quite sad. But my reality these days, unfortunately, when I was living in Cali and then like the southern, like Pacific Southwest, to me, warm was like 26, around 26-ish, which is about 80-ish degrees Fahrenheit. And now, because it's just so fundamentally cold here all the time, it gets into the negatives quite often. And I have to consider anything above zero as warm. So right now it's a nice toasty 13 degrees. And that is super warm to me, or at least that's what I tell myself to keep from genuinely losing my marbles. Anyways, let me just shut my yap. And this whole thing is always like against a woman, always. Okay, here we go. I think this is it. Okay, there we go. So it's nice and bright, but it is just very, very, very cold. And I'm really looking forward to warming up here soon and getting back outdoors. I think I've been like coping a little bit better than expected. Getting used to moving across the country like this has been quite challenging. So shout out to everyone who has had to like move or live more of like a road or a van life. It's really hard out there. And my heart goes out to y'all. Just trying to adjust and cope. So this live stream today, I was like debating on whether or not I want to cover, because when it comes to Prince Harry in the Ukraine, I take that quite seriously. His work in the Ukraine is not only super inspirational, but it's very like sacred to me in a way. Like it's so charged right now. You see how they're trying to get people to like force his hand, and there are so many parallels in the way that he operates and the way that his mother, Princess Diana, operated when she went to Angola back in 97. I'm seeing a lot of commentary about like, oh, what about the political ramifications of this trip? What about the, democratic ramifications and the fallout from that and all that stuff? And they're trying to like force his hand. They're really trying to either get people to be like denouncing the trip as like too political, like exactly like they did with his mom, or they're trying to get him to like cave to the pressure of like not saying what he's saying and not doing what he's doing, which is dumb. I mean, they have a better chance getting people to like denounce the trip itself as like too political. But I say don't count him out. I say do not count him out. I know you guys have seen this over the weekend in Delaware. There was this race, and this gentleman here, this shirtless gentleman here, was at the finish line, pretty much like a hop, step, and a jump at the finish line, y'all. Y'all saw the video, right? It's insane. So this individual who actually crossed the finish line, his name is Joshua Jackson, and he booked it. He walked down, which is just a runner's term for ran down, this gentleman, this shirtless gentleman at the finish line. And it was an insane finish. You can see from the looks on the ladies who were holding that finish line, they were shocked. They were gobsmacked at this outcome. So for me, I'm looking at this like, don't count yourself out. Never count yourself out. It doesn't matter how close to the end things look. Don't count yourself out. And I think that this is a really good lesson to learn. It made me think of like everything that's been going on with, obviously, just in general with the Sussexes, but specifically and particularly with this Ukraine trip. I think that what they're trying to do is discount Harry and make him count himself out as not a royal. So he's not able to do any of this, like, I don't know, they're labeling it political. I don't think it's political to say war is crazy and a lot of people are losing their lives and we should probably try to work together to have peace. Like, that is not like a politically charged statement. And I get it. There's layers and there's nuance and there's, all this behind the scenes red tape nonsense. But on its face, the statement of stop this war is sensical. I mean, who wants to be at war? Who wants to be sending their children off to war? Who wants to be suffering from the devastating consequences of war? Who wants any of that? Like, are you a pro-war then? Like, what are you trying to say? Like, I don't know. I think it's really crazy that they are trying to get Prince Harry not to talk about the war. And I don't know if it's like 100% them wanting him not to talk about the war. I don't know if it's just like, just that thing that they do where they're like, oh, we're going to say whatever we want. We're going to just say something just to be contrarian, I think. A lot of it is just them being contrarian. No matter what Prince Harry does, he could be like, oh, let's end childhood cancer. They'd be like, ugh, that's a politically charged statement. Do you really think you should be making that statement? Like, they would probably say that regardless. So I'm trying to weigh whether or not this is really anything to do with like the political ramifications of him talking against the war, or if they're just contrarian and they would say, stop doing this no matter what it is that he was doing. I tend to think the latter. I think that it's not so much about whether or not Prince Harry is speaking politically about something. I think it's just the fact that they don't want him speaking at all. And I love how when they interviewed him, he made sure to say that, yeah, I'm still a member of the royal family and it's still my job to come out here and do what I can to help people, that he's a humanitarian. And, it shouldn't be a case of, oh, well, you're a royal, so you can't do this. You're a royal, so this isn't your place to do this. I think it's exactly his place to do it. This is his legacy, and this is his mother's legacy that he's also carrying the mantle of. This torch of the Halo Trust that he has taken up from his beloved late mother is so sacred. And I know that I'm like in no way, shape, or form at all on any level or plane or realm close to what these Ukrainians and the people in like the Middle East. Well, I'm gonna stop saying the Middle East. I've been trying to get myself to stop saying the Middle East because I think that's a very colonial term. I'm trying to call it Northern Africa and Southern Europe, Southwestern Asia, Northern Africa. Like, there has to be an acronym for that somewhere that I'm trying to devise right now. I think somebody called it SANA the other day. Southern Asia, Northern Africa. Yeah, I like that. I think that works a little bit better because Middle East is a term that we're talking about Europe as the center of everything, and then Middle East of that. And I'm not, no, forget all that. So in no way, shape, or form do I compare my plight having to, relocate back to Canada because of the violence and the brutality and domestic terrorism occurring currently in the US and has been for the last several years, let's be honest. It's just that it's made me more empathetic. I'm already a pretty empathetic person, but having gone through that myself, as far as like having to be somewhere I don't really want to, well, not that I don't want to be here. Let's be honest. I don't want to not be here. It's just, it's too cold. It's my thing. It's just, that's the thing that got me up out of here, kept me out of here. I left here as a child, but like it kept me from relocating and moving back here because it's just too cold for me. I freeze in this weather and I'm not really comfortable with it. So, I've just been able to understand what it means not to be able to go to a place that felt like home. So I call this sacred work because it is in fact sacred work. And I'm fortunate enough to be an adult at this point in my life. So I was able to make the decision and took that decision for myself to protect myself. But there are kids here that don't have that choice. There are children that are stuck in that place, in those places where, missiles are going off and there are kids that are just completely left abandoned because of the circumstances of wars that have torn their families apart, taken away their caretakers, and just forever altering the course of their lives. So, Princess Diana took up this mantle of the Halo Trust it started, I think, back in the late 1995, 1996, and then she visited Angola in 1997 with the British Red Cross, famously walking through that minefield and speaking very passionately about helping these children and men and women get the help that they need and demine these active minefields. And till today, I mean, these are some of the most famous images out there of Princess Diana that were ever taken. Her walking through that minefield with the halo gear on and the big clear helmet, very fearlessly and bravely walking through those minefields, really brought a lot of attention and, most importantly, sponsorship to the British Red Cross from people who wanted to help further that message and help the individuals in Angola that were really being crippled at the time, literally being crippled at the time by these minefields. So the CEO of the Halo Trust has said that Diana's visit to Angola transformed the public perception of landmines from a military weapon to a global humanitarian issue and helped save countless thousands of lives. And he went on to say that the Halo Trust is proud to have played its part in her journey. So at the time of her visit, 1 in every 330 people in Angola had lost a limb to a landmine. Angola was littered with an estimated 1 to 15 million landmines after 40 full years of conflict. So, to put that into perspective, if you can imagine the Iraq, Afghanistan wars that started in the early 2000s and just ended not too long ago, even that was just like 20 something years of war. A lot of people kind of faded out of their memory, but we had been actively at war and quote unquote, boots on ground in those countries since, what was that, 2001, 2002, ever since the 9/11 attacks. So, that's a lifetime for a lot of people. And this was double that. So another 20 something years, and then you'll have that conflict span of time that this war in Angola lasted. So roughly 150 to 200 new accidents occurred every single week with somebody getting something blown off. And as far as the statistics and the data are concerned, that trip, Princess Diana's 1997 trip to Angola, is widely regarded as one of the most successful humanitarian interventions of the modern era. Her visit literally transformed a very niche military and political issue into a global humanitarian crisis, and it led to direct international legislative changes. So there obviously was the Diana effect. Everything that she wore turned to gold, everything that she touched turned to gold, and Angola was no different. There was a tangible, immediate global impact, one of them being the Ottawa Treaty, which Diana's visit provided the final push for the 1997 mine ban treaty, which is also called the Ottawa Treaty. And though she passed away 3 months before it was signed in December of 1997, 122 countries eventually committed to banning the production and the use of anti-personnel landmines. And that shifted the public perception so greatly. Like before her walk, landmines were viewed primarily as military tools. And then afterwards, they were seen as indiscriminate killers of civilians, particularly children. I mean, again, these images of her and, sitting with Angolans and holding Angolan children are some of the most famous out there, some of the most widespread and noticeable, recognizable out there. the media spotlight that she created led to a massive increase in international funding for demining projects and allowed organizations like the Halo Trust and then other groups like the Mines Advisory Group, or MAG, to scale their operations significantly. So since Diana's visit, the Halo Trust alone has destroyed almost 130,000 landmines in Angola. They've cleared and returned almost 462 million square feet of land, which is about 10,600, almost 10,600 acres of land back to the people, and then also rendered it safe for like farming and schools and homes. The Huambo transformation they credit Diana with. So this is a specific minefield that Diana walked through. That very specific minefield that Diana walked through was in the city of Huambo. And that's now a thriving community with carpentry and workshops. It has a college, there's schools there. It's just really transformed the entire area. So an estimated 1.2 million Angolans have directly benefited from Diana's demining work, directly tied to that advocacy. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. The global progress has been so calculable. And since the treaty she championed took effect, 27 countries have been declared entirely landmine free, and over 51 million stockpiled landmines have been destroyed worldwide. So, whenever we say, where are the receipts? Or show us anything that can prove your insistence that the royals, for example, are useful, this is what we mean. Bust out the data. Bust out the data. If there's travel data that we're not aware of that is directly tied to the royals being in power, then say that. Bust it out. If there are people who are specifically going to the UK for the current royals in the hopes of seeing them, in the hopes of shaking a hand, I don't know, in the hopes of getting a glimpse of them, which they're not there. So we already know on its face that that's not true, because they are not going to be there when you travel there. Like, they're not going to be there. But if that's the case, poll these travelers and ask them why they've come to Britain. And let's see the direct link saying that, oh, they're inspired by the royals, and that the royals did in fact cause them to hand over money to Great Britain because of that. Tell us about that. Diana sat there with children and women and men whose limbs have been blown off. I mean, the devastation was horrifying. These pictures are horrifying. And I mean, when I first saw these pictures, I was probably, I don't know, 13, maybe 14. And I cried. They were so sad. Diana's compassion was so moving. You could feel it really radiating through these pictures. And this tender moment here with the little girl, her name is actually Sandra Dijika. And she had lost her leg in this horrific accident. And she went on to name her daughter after Diana because she was so moved by the visit. That is another tangible. I mean, we can see that with our own two eyes. She was so moved by this visit and Diana's compassion that she had a daughter and named her after the princess. So again, tangible, right? We were looking at her, we can see her daughter, we can see her daughter's name, and she has explained to us why she did name her daughter Diana. And so like that's just what we mean. Like, where's the beef? Like, show us the tangible benefits of the thing that they're doing. In fact, this entire press coverage of the trip, like, Diana she's a highly awarded person. Like, when she was leaving the royal family, she had gotten that award down in Australia, and a lot of other people had given her recognition and accolades. But it's nice, right? It's nice to be recognized for your work, but those are like tangible pieces of evidence. Those are receipts, as we call them, of your functionality, your efficacy, and most importantly, the benefit to others that you provided. This entire press coverage of this trip collectively won the Nobel Peace Prize. It was awarded to the International Campaign to Ban Landmines just months after Diana passed away. So that Nobel Prize is evidence of Diana's work having been successful, of it having been tangibly beneficial to others. And I know that like prizes aren't necessarily a metric that people would use when they're saying how like important something is, but prizes certainly let you know, especially when it comes down to humanitarian prizes, how effective and important what you're doing is. The Sussexes have 8 awards between them, like joint awards, including Project Healthy Minds, the Humanitarian of the Year Award, the Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights Ripple of Hope Award, the NAACP President's Award, the Time 100 Icons Most Influential People of 2021. There's this little known award called the PFLAG Human First Award in 2022 that they got for their human rights campaign recognition that formally acknowledged them for their commitment to equity and their public advocacy for community safety and inclusion. Then there's the Queen's Young Leaders Award in 2018, very obscure, not widely recognized or known award, but they did win an award back in 2018 called the Queen's Young Leaders Award, which was one of the first major joint ceremonial appearances where they joined Queen Elizabeth II to honor exceptional young people from across the Commonwealth. And then there was their Global Citizens Live Vaccine Equity Recognition in 2021, where they were honored as lead advocates during the 24-hour global broadcast to further efforts to ensure fair access to COVID-19 vaccines in developing nations. That's together. That's just the list of awards together. Prince Harry has 4 military service medals, 2 major aviation honors, 1 ESPY award, and a New York Times bestseller accolade for Spare. Princess Meghan has the Women of Vision Award, the Gracie Award, and the People's Duchess Award for her archetypes, 2 Signal Awards for Confessions of a Female Founder, the Gold Award for Business People and Entrepreneurs Shaping Culture, and then there was also the Listener's Choice Award in that same Signal Award in the same category. So there were actually 2 Signal Awards that she won in that period, as well as her New York Times bestseller accolade for The Bench and her honorary Nigerian chieftaincy. So many people don't know this, but Princess Meghan isn't just that chieftaincy in particular. I want to get into a little bit because she's the first royal ever to be a royal of 2 countries simultaneously and hold those 2 titles simultaneously in both Africa and Europe. The first of her name. She isn't just a princess either of the Nigerian realm. She was also made a chief. So this is actually quite significant because Meghan is also the only princess of the Nigerian realms across every major tribe. And I need y'all to understand how important this is, right? So the way it works is that if you are a king or chief or anything like that is specific to your tribe, whether it be Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, or any of the other groups. If you're a chief or a king in the Igbo tribe, you would be given like the courtesy and the recognition. Let's say you're outside of your area, you've gone to another state or whatever. Those titles don't necessarily translate or transfer into the next ethnic group's royal hierarchy. So you'd be regarded as, a specific member, a king or a chief of your tribe, but that would not automatically translate to you being recognized as such when you cross ethnic groups. So the fact that Meghan has these titles across all those ethnic groups is very, very rare, extremely rare. In fact, it's never been done. These groups in Nigeria, historically speaking, I would call them frenemies. I would call them frenemies. They haven't always gotten along. There's been like this whole Biafran war over it until today. There's still very like strong sentiments, and a lot of the various groups calling for, separation, yada yada. So the fact that all these tribes were able to come together for this and agree that Meghan should have royal status as well as chief status in all of the tribes is extremely significant, because that has never, ever, ever been accomplished before. No such title has been given to anyone before that applies unilaterally across the entire country like that, across all ethnic groups like that, ever. So she was given the title of Princess of Arochukwu Ancient Kingdom, which is a senior royal princess of this ancient kingdom by the three kings, the Ezearo of Arochukwu, the Obi of Onisha, and the Olu of Wari. She was also given the title of Adamazi, which is the one we know the most, which was bestowed by the Obi of Onitsha. This is the Igbo leadership and title that we're seeing here, the one that she had the sash for. And the title translates to the daughter of the Igbo ancestral palace. It signifies that she's viewed as the first daughter of a chief. And then she also got the title of Adetakumbo, which is the Yoruba name that was given to her by the Olowu of Iwoland, the Oba, I'm going to butcher this name here, but Abdul Rashid Akanbi. So it carries the very poetic meaning of royalty from across the seas, or the crown returns from overseas. It's a beautiful, very poetic title in Yoruba land that she was bestowed. So in addition to getting these titles, I just need y'all to understand how historic it is that these kings came out from their lands to meet Meghan in Lagos. That has never happened. If you want to meet the king anywhere, you have to go and meet him at his palace. It has never happened that the kings all convene to come meet a woman at that anywhere to bestow a title upon her. That whole event was the most historical, groundbreaking thing in modern history in Africa. And of course, Meghan wrote to the kings afterwards a handwritten note expressing deep gratitude and how the visit allowed her to understand her heritage and the legacy that she's carrying on with her kids, and that she also looks forward to coming back home one day. So it's important, this legacy word, because no matter what happens with the monarchy, which I personally think the monarchy is on its way out, to be honest. I think a lot of the current civilizations are on their way out. With the way things are going in like the US, for example, we're all looking at that 250-year earmark that they say that civilizations usually rise and fall within. And we're all eyeing it real sharp right now. We're all kind of keeping a corner eye on that, because I strongly think that there is going to be some sort of very significant change in the upcoming years and decades. There will be a reckoning. There will be a reckoning for what is currently happening in that country, and hopefully sooner rather than later. The same thing with the UK. I personally feel that the monarchy is just going out the door, like, and not because of any personal feelings, right? The fact of the matter is, I am a commentary channel, and as much as my commentary can be, a little cutting, a little deep. All the same, when it comes to the royals, it's actually quite surface level. I don't have any feelings, strong personal feelings about any of them, other than Queen Elizabeth. Because I have seen Queen Elizabeth with my own two eyes in pictures, obviously in video, doing some really, really heinous and horrifying things to people in Kenya specifically during the earlier part of her starting to travel out there and everything like that. The way that her and her regime like brutally suppressed the Mau Mau, I will never forgive that. I will never get over that. I will never forgive that. I'm not going to speak ill of her because she has passed, but all the same, I will never forgive that. So she is the only person in that family that I specifically can call out and say, yeah, I don't like you. Hey, cookies and cream. Happy Sunday. Hope you're doing well, hun. So everyone else, yeah, I might be snarky with, I might be sarcastic about, yeah, I'm going to call things as I see them, but I don't personally have like any bad will or vendetta against any of them. And it may sound like that, from time to time, because again, I just call it like I see it. I tell the truth about what I'm looking at. And if that sounds harsh to you, if my commentary sounds critical or harsh, I mean, the subject is the one that needs to change. The things that they are doing are the things that need to change, not my commentary about it, because I'm calling it like I see it. I'm not adding anything to this commentary that is not true. But yeah, I mean, it from time to time sounds a bit harsh, but that's to the people who enjoy being oppressed by the monarchy. But for the most part, I don't know these people. I don't care about these people enough to have any type of feeling about them. So when I say the monarchy is on its way out the door, I mean that from an objective, viewable perspective. I'm not using my personal opinion or my personal dislike of Elizabeth to make that determination. Y'all know me, I'm a scientist. My determinations are based in fact. I have to be able to see, qualify, or quantify whatever I'm looking at to have that opinion about it. The facts are that the monarchy is as unpopular as it's ever been. Andrew has destroyed them. What they did to Harry and Meghan have destroyed them. They have destroyed themselves. And yeah, they may very well survive this era, this news cycle of Andrew and Epstein. Yeah, but they will never recover their reputations from what they did to Harry and Meghan. Andrew is a whole different case. A lot of people are hesitant to blame the royals based on his actions, which is fair. I agree with that. It's fair. You shouldn't hold anyone accountable for what he did. But the facts are coming out slowly but surely that everybody not only knew about it, but in some instances, like with Prince Edward, assisted him, gave the clearance for Epstein's jets to land with his trafficked victims on certain airfields that the royals controlled. You know, when it comes to Fergie, we're seeing how much she was involved, how much more deeply she was involved than what she was letting on. So, and the York sisters, unfortunately, have their implications too. So when it comes down to laying blame at anyone's doorstep, we're not saying that they should be held accountable for his actions. They should be held accountable for their actions in the cover-up. Elizabeth paid a quote unquote complete stranger over 12 million pounds to go away. Why would you do that? Why would you do that rather than let your son go have his day in court and defend his honor, defend himself, defend his character in court, or at least under deposition, right? Which is what they've been asking for. Let us depose you, give us the information that we're looking for, and everything will be fine. No, he won't do that. They are all covering it up. Charles, it's being said that he also contributed a portion of that money to pay off the late Virginia Giuffre. So those are their actions separate from what Andrew did. They are part of the cleanup crew. And in US law, you are just as culpable as the person who pulled the trigger, if that's the case. You are just as culpable as the person who robbed the bank, if you're the getaway driver. You are just as culpable as the person who committed a crime if you harbor them after the fact. You might not get as stiff a sentence as they do, being that it was before or after the fact and not directly. But the fact of the matter is, you are still legally culpable. In most constitutions, if you assist the crime, you are culpable in that crime. All of the royals have assisted in this crime in one way or the other over the decades that he's been doing it. They all knew about it. They failed to say anything. They all saw those girls as young as they were traipsing in and out of the palace and Andrew's place and, here and there. And nobody said boo. And yeah, maybe it's not your place to start questioning a random person about how old they are when you see them. But when you see a child wandering around somewhere, certainly, they have a certain look to them. Certainly, an adult can take a child aside and say, ma'am, where are your parents? Who's here with you? How old are you? Like, especially when you know the context of why that child is there. Especially when you know why that child is there. So those are all things that they have to answer for at some point. This whole thing has destroyed them. Andrew doing what he did is bad enough, but you guys doing what you did to assist him in doing what he did is why you have destroyed yourself. And even if you want to spend the rest of your life pretending like, oh, they're good people and whatever, doesn't change the fact, fine. None of that alters anything. None of that alters what they did. When you look at it objectively, how you feel about them does not change their actions. They're under a lot of scrutiny and a lot of eyes are on them right now because of what they did during all that time, or actually what they didn't do, which was stop it, which was do something, which was put an end to it. Take Andrew aside maybe even and tell him, hey man, you can't do this. Nobody did anything. Nobody said boo. And now in the last, decade, because of what they did to Harry and Meghan, people who have never paid attention to them before are now looking at them very closely, and they are buckling under that pressure and all of those additional eyes. They drove Harry and Meghan out because they wanted those additional eyes. They wanted that spotlight, and now they can't handle it. They're not doing very well. And that's an observable fact. They're struggling. They're struggling at these events. I've never seen William's hands more balled up. I mean, I guess I've never noticed it, but I went back and looked. I've never seen his hands more balled up than they have been lately. In the last several years, every picture that he takes, there is a hand balled up. Go back and look at the 100-year anniversary or the centenary celebration for Elizabeth's, what would have been her 100 years. They're talking to the crowd. He has a drink in one hand and his other hand is balled up. Ready. He seems like he's just always ready to beat somebody's butt. Like he's always just ready to punch somebody's lights out at any minute. He always looks so mad. And again, that balled up hand speaks volumes. They don't speak much. The royals don't come out and give these speeches anymore. They don't take the time to really get to know the public. They never really have, but at least Elizabeth made a show of doing that. When that town flooded, they had like some kind of like industrial accident, and the entire town was destroyed. I forget what town it was, but it was a town in Wales. It was a Welsh town. Elizabeth went out there over and over and over and over again. Some of it was recorded for, good publicity and PR, but she went out there personally. And I'll give her that. I'll give her that. I'm not taking any of that away from her. I'll give her that. She went out there personally. She met with those people one by one. She understood their problems. She heard them. She cried with them. She comforted them. She consoled them. She took time. She developed a personal relationship with multiple people in that town. And I'll give her that. They don't do that anymore. They really don't even put on the airs of that anymore. And when they do speak, it's some clipped, unemotional AI nonsense. There's just no impact. Nothing. Dead behind the eyes. And today's society demands more accountability than that, more receipts than that. These kids these days want to know what's in it for us. Us millennials and the ones after us, we want to show me the money. We want to know where's the beef. What did this visit to the school do for those kids? How are any of these organizations that you have visited faring today? I haven't heard much from any of these organizations that they're patrons of. They're patrons of thousands of organizations across the UK and elsewhere in the Commonwealth. Like, show us the progress. And I don't follow like the engagements that the royals do. So I actually don't even know like what organizations they're going to visit. I know very much after the fact, if I know at all. But I don't see the success because even the organizations themselves are not coming out to like thank the royals for their life-changing efforts, their organizational changing efforts. There's no social media posts. There's no Vogue or People magazine articles where the organization is just like gobsmacked at the amount of business they've received, or the donations that their organization has received, or the repairs they were able to make because of the directly, made because the royals contributed or did something that helped them raise them. There's none of that. There's no tangible benefit that we can see from either the organizations or the royals themselves of their visits to these places. And I fear that these organizations are in fact being used. And to an extent, they know that they're being used, right? But they hope that by allowing the royals to use them for their publicity, the exchange is that they'll reap some personal benefit to themselves. But these days, that's just not the case. That's just not the case. Maybe back in the days of QE2, and certainly back when Harry and Meghan were around, but now, not a peep from anyone expressing delight and joy about how their business has flourished, how they're just gobsmacked, how they're flabbergasted and humbled by the influx caused by a royal visit, which is the complete opposite of Harry and Meghan. When Harry and Meghan do things, we all know of those places forever. We all support those places forever. We will always support CamFed. We will always support Well Child. We will always know and support SmartWorks. We will always support and know anything that the Sussexes do or visit or wear or anything. It's going to be on our radar permanently. They're also leaving pieces of audio and visual legacy that will be in the zeitgeist forever. Their documentary, Meghan's show, Harry's polo efforts, his efforts with The Me You Can't See, and all of those other visual pieces of history, really, that they've recorded and placed out there. Those are forever. Those are things that we will always know about, that will always exist forever. They're historical artifacts at this point. And they'll always have fans in the Sussex squad. So even if they have absolutely nothing else, no other fans anywhere else, the Sussex squad alone can and will keep them in business no matter what it is. We will see their movies. Cookie Queens, I can already tell you right now that Cookie Queens is going to be a #1 movie. Like, I ain't even gotta, do too much, say too much. Cookie Queens is going to be a #1 movie based on how we are about to show up. I'm planning on seeing it at least twice, just because. Not at all because I'm addicted to those Samoas or Thin Mints, but because very much it's a Sussex production. Addiction, Girl Scout cookie addiction aside, I will very much be supporting the Sussexes by seeing that movie at least twice. We will buy the clothes. We will buy the merch. We will buy the As Ever. We will buy the books. We will buy the biographies. We will support in any which way. We are buying whatever they're selling. And for the first time, I think, in the history of the monarchy is facing a really bad publicity challenge. They faced a terrible crisis after that year of divorces. I think that was 92. I think the queen called that the terrible and terriblest and whatever, the horrible year. And then their house burned down and some other stuff. And then 1997, they almost did not survive their cruelty after Princess Diana passed. And they acted so callously. They almost didn't survive that, but they did. They, in fact, ended up recouping. But this, I don't know. I don't know, man. When you start hucking eggs and produce at the king and queen, that's how I can tell personally that things aren't going so well. That's how I can foresee that this is probably the beginning of the end. The hucking of the eggs is really the most telltale thing about how this is all going. I mean, so if you want to delude yourself about them, about the royals, about the status that they're in right now, about the kerfuffle that they currently find themselves, that's perfectly fine. But I'm looking at the people throwing things and yelling and calling them parasites, and I'm using that as the data to make my judgments based off of. I'm looking at all the charities and organizations and various retailers and brands that have all closed, gone into foreclosure, including the future queen's own family. Their companies have all gone into foreclosure or administration, as you guys call it over there in the UK, because the popularity and the pull just aren't there. If the future queen's own mother, father, sister, brothers can't even, pop off their businesses or save their businesses based off of her popularity and pull that you guys swear up and down that she has, I'm looking at that and going, huh? Because if we're all talking about like popularity, that they were super popular and everything was great, we would be discussing the massive success of Pippa's books. We would be discussing the massive success of James's dog treat company and that one Nazi paraphernalia company that he had. We would be discussing the massive success and the expansion of party pieces worldwide. We would be discussing how utterly successful her family is in their business endeavors. But we aren't. We aren't. We're talking about going into administration and the flops of these books and the flops of these companies. Like, hello? So that's data. The fact that the books haven't sold and the companies have gone into foreclosure and closed, those are pieces of data that can help you discern how things are going. You cannot look at that and say these things have been successful. We have to use that data that is available to us to make objective commentary about what's happening. And I pride myself on that. Again, I might come off as the Disney villain here and there. However, if you look at everything I've said on this channel at all, you can clearly see I might tell you a joke, but have I ever told you a lie? Whenever I'm wrong about something, I can definitely admit to it. By all means, pull those receipts. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But unlike the royal reporters and the Rhoda, I actually do my research. I actually care very much about the information that I put out there. I care that it's accurate. I care that it's factual. It's important to me to be factual and correct. And if a different set of facts are presented to me that disprove my earlier convictions about something, I'll change my opinion based on confirmation of those facts, of the new evidence. So objectively speaking, Diana's Halo Trust advocacy was the most successful anti-landmine advocacy in history to date. And there's a Nobel Peace Prize to back up that assertion. And if you don't know what a Nobel is, and I don't know, read a book. I don't know what to tell you. So I think Harry and Meghan are really putting into perspective what it means to pass on a royal legacy, not just from the UK, but royal in terms of globally. Meghan is a globally recognized princess. She is a royal across 2 different continents. And that is the real legacy there, that they're the first royals to actually earn. And even if Harry didn't pick up the mantle, and even if Harry and Meghan both didn't carry on this mantle of humanitarian work, and Harry specifically with his mother's work with the Halo Trust and HIV advocacy, Diana herself had already left an indelible legacy. A lot of people think that legacy are your children. Legacy is not your children. Legacy is what you leave behind. It's your accomplishments. It's your mark on the world. Children are very much a part of that. They are what you also leave behind, but they're not automatically your legacy, especially when you have a child who denounces you and calls you paranoid and takes the side of your tormentor. Billy over there certainly does not embody his mother's legacy. He hasn't taken up the mantle of her legacy. He isn't passing on his mother's legacy, and he couldn't care less about any of that. His own personal legacy is cruelty. Harry's legacy, Harry isn't carrying on Charles's legacy, for example, at all. Charles is cold and brutal and petty and abusive, and he likes to play mind games. That's his legacy. King Charles the Cruel, that's what we call him. That's his legacy. Adultery is his legacy. That is what he is known for. Nobody knows anything else about that man. They called him King George the other day. I was dead. Somebody asked a U.S. representative how she felt about King George's visit, and she, without missing a beat, she was like, I don't know nothing about that. I'm an American. We don't have kings over here. I don't know nothing about that. And they kept calling him King George. I was dead. Everybody was like, now who is King George? Like, who is that? I still have tears. I'm crying right now. I am so dead, because what do you mean? What do you mean, King George? And then another, they were talking about MasterChef Australia, and it's only now that people remember that George, look at me calling him George too. He's so forgettable. His legacy ain't nothing. Anyways, it's only now that people remember that he was also on MasterChef Australia. When the host of MasterChef Australia said, yeah, we've had, little royals here and there in the kitchen, not real royals, but we've had our little celebrity royalty in the kitchen, but we've never had actual. They didn't even remember. They themselves did not even remember that Charles and Camilla had taken a part in one of those shows at some point. So forgettable. And what legacy is that? That's Harry is not Charles's legacy at all. He has his own legacy, and more than anything, it is adultery. Camilla's entire legacy is adultery. Charles at least has 2 sons, one of which will be king. That is, you can say that that's his legacy, fine, whatever. But it's clear that they hate each other. And I don't think that William is carrying on the mantle of anything other than the power that he is inheriting from his dad. So you can't really even say that William is his legacy. He is a default legacy by virtue of being alive currently and who he is. That's it. Oprah Winfrey, for example, has no children, but look at her legacy. Right? Look at the things that she has done, the body of work that she has contributed to the world. Tracy Ellis Ross has no children, but look at what she has contributed to the zeitgeist and what she will be remembered for. Legacy is how you make people feel. It is what you've done for others that is then remembered when you pass on. And the Sussexes, just like Diana, make people feel things. They make people feel like things are going to be okay. No matter how tough things are, they make people feel like it's going to be okay. I'm one of those people who have been impacted, for example, by the Sussexes and their legacy. I've learned so much about mental health and myself. Surprisingly enough, from the Sussexes, especially when it comes to their work and advocacy and mental health, the deep breathing and relaxation exercises that they did in that documentary when they first left. I looked that up, and that's been very helpful to me. That's been extremely helpful to me. Adopting that methodology has been extremely helpful for me to deal with some of the tough times that I've gone through in the recent months. And I have a bachelor's in psychology, but I have still learned so much from their openness and honesty and the sharing and the way that Harry and Meghan have brought us along on their journey and let us know that it's going to be okay. I feel very much connected to them in that way. I want to play this clip from when Harry went to the UK as well. And then I also want to play a piece of his speech at the end here, and then we'll wrap up. I won't keep you guys too long. Hold on.
To be here in Ukraine, to see how the Halo Trust is relying on modern technologies, robots, AI, drones, to speed up the process for demining and finding munitions that are scattered all over this country. Back in the day, nearly 30 years ago, when my mother was in Angola, Halo Trust were on hands and knees clearing landmines, but the improvements and the ability to clear minefields faster is extraordinary. So the technology is very, very impressive. To all the donors and funders out there, please continue to support Halo Trust so that we can get more drones and clear these spaces so they can be safe for Ukrainians to enjoy.
Okay, so this is legacy, right? If Prince Harry did nothing else with his life, if he didn't marry anyone, if he was just maybe a bachelor forever, never had any kids, this is his legacy. He has carried on the mantle and the torch of his mother's Halo Trust advocacy and work. And this is so impressive, so very impressive. And you heard him, he's pleading, please give these folks money so that they can get these machines out here to more quickly and thoroughly demine these fields so that they can be safe. So that is a piece of advocacy. This is a piece of historical artifact that Harry is leaving behind. This is something that you can look to. And again, if you knew nothing else about Prince Harry and saw this, you would say, wow, what a great legacy. And this has touched so many millions of people. This is tangible work that's being done to assist others in a way that is very, very real and beneficial. And that is what we're talking about here. It's really touched a lot of people. Their work has really touched a lot of people and continues to do so. It's important because behind the titles and behind the galas and the suits and ties and all those things are people, boots on the ground, risking their lives. Well, now they have drones and other mechanical features that pose less risk to people having to do this, like the handwork, but all the same, it's still quite dangerous. And it's important to see that. It's important to see pictures like this behind the scenes, because it's not all glitz and glamour and royal patrons and all that stuff. Behind it all is the fact that there are people on the ground that are being severely affected. Again, limbs blown off, folks. How would you feel without a leg or an arm? Like, limbs blown off. Children whose lives have been completely scattered by loss, personal loss, physical loss, but also the loss of family, friends, their homes. So this work is beyond what we're seeing on the surface. It is not just a hot royal who is advocating for help or, making quote unquote politically motivated, charged or whatever. It's none of that. It doesn't have anything to do with that. Unfortunately, the people who put those minds there see it as a political stance because they want to harm other people, and this is getting in the way of doing that. So they make it a political issue. But the fact of the matter is, this is a humanitarian issue. As his mother said, like he said nearly 30 years ago, and as he's doing now, it is a humanitarian issue. It is not a political issue in any way, shape, or form. And I think it's just really important to understand the difference between the two. There's a quote that I want to wrap up on. I saw this on Aurora James's Instagram. And you guys remember Aurora James. She's the founder of the 15% Pledge, that beautiful, beautiful caramel lady that Megan attended the pledge with. And she had this on her Instagram, this I think a wall in her house. So she just put these words from James Baldwin up there. There's a reason, after all, that some people wish to colonize the moon and others dance before it as an ancient friend. I love this quote because it is so very true. The people that are arguing against Harry's work right now are the same people who seek to colonize the moon and then terrorize whatever life forms that they find over there as well. There's nothing political about saying this is not good. There's nothing political about saying people shouldn't have their limbs blown off. There's nothing political about saying kids shouldn't be subject to this. There is absolutely nothing wrong with advocating for people to be safe. No matter how much you're trying to make that into a whole thing and act as if, oh, that's the worst thing a person could say. It's not. It's not the worst thing a person can say that there should be peace, that they want peace. I don't even understand where that mentality comes in, that it's not acceptable to advocate for peace unless you are in fact advocating for harm. That is the alternative. And Harry and Meghan's legacy can really be summed up in pretty much one sentence, and that is that service is universal. I think I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. But thank you for joining me today. I've had such a blast. I hope you guys have learned something. I know I have. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday as well. If you've enjoyed this live, please do hit that like, share, and subscribe. And if you're so inclined, join our membership. We have a lot of fun in members only. You can also support the channel by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/The People's Duchess or scanning this QR code here on the screen. Have a wonderful rest of your day, guys. Please get your 8 hours in, if at all possible, for tomorrow. Rest up. Be kind to yourselves. And until next time, bye for now.